Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for being here. My name is Redding, and today we're going to be continuing to explore the steps and the processes that go from, hi, how are you? What do you do for a living? That original kind of conversation. And then moving to all the way through of setting up a sample session to see if it's a good fit, good client, if I'm a good coach, good chemistry between me and the client. After sample session, we talked about contracting. If you have that one, that's on a recording on Facebook as well as YouTube. So make sure you go back and listen to that. Contracting is completed. We have come to the place of what we call the foundation session. The foundation session is the initial session between coach and client. It does not include the sponsor. This is confidential. And we call it the foundation session because the rest of the coaching engagement is built upon this session. So we're going to get into what's inside of a foundation session. And if that's what you're interested in, you are in a place. So welcome. Okay. So we have session 10 out of the 12 in this series. This is series 4 on exploring coaching mastery, episode 10, the foundation session. And getting right to it, co-creating the foundation session, creating the engagement to be built upon. That's why I like calling it the foundation session. Other coaches might call this an intake. They may call this onboarding, engagement onboarding. But we're going to talk about 8 of the key elements, and there could be others, but time permitting in the hour that we have together today, we're going to talk about these 8 primary elements that go into all of my foundation sessions. Always have. If you have any questions and you're on YouTube, then put those questions on YouTube or on Facebook, and we'll see if we can't get to answering those live. If you're with me on the Zoom platform, then also if you would type in your notes, type in your questions, your comments in the Zoom chat box. We have a lot of material to cover today, so let's get right to it. Establishing trust and safety, it's one of the major purposes, builds chemistry or continues to build chemistry. Hopefully a good chemistry session in the sample session. It's the client discovery process, time for discovery, or what I like to call rediscovery. And I'll go into that in much more detail when we get to that element of the foundation session. Client's personal ecosystem. What's the suit? What's the atmosphere that they swim in every day or have been for their whole life? And to respect that, honor that, know that, understand that with the client. What is coaching? At this stage, the client kind of knows what coaching is all about. They've had the experience back in the session, at least to dip their toe in the water of coaching, but they may have come up with more questions in the meantime. So have an opportunity to answer those in more depth during this session. What are the client's goals for the entire engagement? What do they want to know? What do they want to develop? What do they want to learn, perhaps, over the course of the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever that contract that we talked about last week includes? has been agreed to. What are the client's beliefs? Huge part of coaching is detecting what would the client have to believe to be on his or her or their current trajectory, making the decisions that they're making. You can see all of my. And finally, how does this client process or learn? What's their natural way of doing that? So we'll get into this VAK type of what kind of a learner are they? All right. So here we go. Number one, establishing trust and safety, or if you will, building trust and safety. It's trust and safety isn't, okay, we do it one time and then we forget about it. This is a live, a live, changing, variable. You can continue to build upon this, or it can be eroded in a moment. And so for me, this is precious. And to be with great care. So number one question, how can I best honor you? How can I best honor you in our coaching engagement? I also repeat confidentiality, even though we've talked about it in the sample session, even though it's written in writing in the agreement that they have signed by this juncture. I will reiterate, I do not share what you talk about. I do not share topics that you talk about. I do not share the progress or the lack of progress that you're making back to anybody in your organization. I do not share anything that we talk about with other coaches. Anybody, any mutual friends that we might have or run into, it's confidential. Unless I suspect potential harm to you or to someone else, or the potential for illegal intention, an illegal intention. And then with that, I must share that is not covered under the confidentiality between coach and client. Okay, I have a legal obligation if I am, if you will, subpoenaed into a disclosure. In the United States, your jurisdiction might be different. We talked a lot about that last session, but I repeat that in our foundation session. You can bring any topic to our coaching. So they may have specific things that have come out of conversations with the sponsor or their boss organization that we want you to develop this, that, or the other. And they choose to do that. They voluntarily choose to do that. And I make it, this is 100% your agenda, every single coaching session that we have, your agenda. So if things are coming up personally in your personal life, and that's what you want to talk about and clear or go into deeper and explore, then that's your prerogative. And I also tell them that you can be vulnerable with me. I actually use those words. I feel very comfortable in using those words. If you don't, then be authentic. But you can be vulnerable with me. I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to hold space for you to explore that. I remember one client that I shared with, I said, she was very, very afraid of getting into a topic. And so I said, I give you full permission to explore it if you choose, and to the depth that you choose. And you can then even not do anything with it. That's again, your choice as a client. And so To the degree that you are comfortable with people being vulnerable with you and you not jumping in and trying to rescue them as a codependent might do, or you don't start judging them or, crunching your face and going, that then goes back to the top of the list here, that erodes trust and safety. It does. So be honest with yourself, be honest with the, all right? So that's trust and safety. Number 2, builds chemistry. Again, continues to build a chemistry that came out of the sample session by being respectful of them, their person, their way of being, their way of doing, their willingness or unwillingness to go deep with any particular types of things that they're talking about. Be your authentic self. Don't try to be Peter Rudd. One of me. Thank you very much. So be your authentic self. If you have a sense of exuberance and excitement, and that's not nervous energy, but that's your way of being, then be yourself. If you're more sober or more matter of fact, then clients will be attracted to you because of you. And so honor that about yourself and bringing your authentic self to this session. Be curious. Coaches are innately curious. Curious about, allows you to go deeper, allows you to, again, without judgment, without directiveness, without any of those kinds of things attached to the curiosity. And it's the key here is I am curious to have the client explore deeper that fulfills their agenda. I am not curious for my own purpose. So if they start talking about a topic that I have interest in, I've read a lot about it, I've learned a lot about it, I'm engaged with that almost on a weekly basis, and they say something, I don't ask some questions. Could you say that again in terms of that reference that you referred to? I would be very interested in reading that or seeing that or watching a video of that. That's my curiosity, personal agenda. Leave that stuff out of it, but be curious that supports their agenda and there to go deeper into that particular area. Okay, so that's what I mean by being curious. Be compassionate. They're a fellow human being. Love them. When they're agonizing over something, don't get enmeshed in that, but you can be compassionate as a fellow human being to the journey that they're currently inside of. And a lot of times this is nonverbal. It's just and they can feel the energy of compassion. If it's a video that you can see the client and the client, then it might be your facial expressions. If you do use words in this area, it's wow. Yeah, keep going. I get it. I understand. I do not get into my story. I remember when I was 35 years old, going through that with my relationships or my boss or my situation or my career, blah, 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 who cares? So I can simply say, I really get this. Keep going. Be professional. Show up on time, be organized, be ready for the foundation session. Know what you're doing, the processes that you going to go potentially go through during the time together. Have those ready. If they need to have things done prepared ahead of time, then let them know what those are, what the due dates are, get them back to you. I suggest like a week ahead of time before the foundation session so that you can go through those ahead of time and know that they've completed that piece that might take them a half an hour to prepare, and so that they don't have to do it during the time that you've set aside for the foundation session itself. So, okay, builds chemistry. Number 3. Let me just check in. I'm not seeing any questions coming through in the chat box. So if you do have them, if you could enter them in there for either greater clarity or comment. Number 3, the client discovery. I call this because what I do and what I've taught now for 25 years is having the client back with their core self, which they have long since forgotten, frankly, is my experience, and literally 100% of the cases. Now, people felt better in terms of work that they've done on the personal side of their life. I even go deeper than that. Access instead of assess. But assessments, a lot of coaches use assessments or incorporate assessments that the individual's gone through career, the corporate jobs that they have been in. So they've been through the DISC assessment, the MBTI, Myers-Briggs assessment, Enneagram, of assessments that are out there. I personally teach, and I personally use an assessment to access that inner person. And I find that to be much more powerful. I'll give you a short version of this, just kind of as a, there's a 10-minute version of that is free to the world. It's at coreselfie.com, coreselfie.com, CORESELF, self, then IE.com. There are processes that I use in the foundation session that we're going through right now. That's a short version of it. In our training, we go through a much longer day-and-a-half training of doing a much more sophisticated version of that. But that is if assessment tool or process. I highly encourage you to use the 3 that are on there. Yeah, and we see it in the chat box there. Great. Okay. I want to be able to access the internal core of my clients. So I say internal core values, internal core life purpose, internal core strength. The way that I hold these have been are endowments from my creator. Endowments. They are gifted to me at birth. I've had them all my life. They'll never go away. I have them right now, and I'll have them when I die. And it's up to me then to get back in touch with them and develop them, utilize them, align my decisions with those, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so by having this information about my client, and more importantly, my client have information and are actually articulated for themselves on one sheet of paper in their own words. I do not dictate this. They choose 100% of the words that go down in their written articulation, that document. That becomes the GPS for that particular client, because it is one unique to that client. And it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. People's lives have, they come into the training or they come into a coaching relationship and they start making decisions now. It's like I've been feeling really awful about life, or I feel awful about my career. I'm not getting fully satisfied. And so they start making little decisions that are based more and more on the core of who they really are. And guess what? They start getting, they start becoming more productive. Okay. So for those of you that are worried about productivity and, their job or their career based on coaching, and they're still talking about, I can guarantee you they are more passionate about their work, more engaged in their work, more engaged in their life, more engaged in their family, more in their own personal health, etc. It's unbelievably, and even for the individual, they have, can't believe what a change this has made, what an impact this has made. So we're going to be talking more about the core selfie series. We'll be going into the self-mastery portion, exploring self-mastery. So we'll get into this actually more in a future episode. So stay tuned for that one. You don't want to miss that one. Now, I also want to talk in this foundation session about the external core identities. Okay. Identity or identity. What's their preferred pronouns? He, she, they. Ask them. Be honoring of that. Their sexual identity, their cultural or ethnic identity, their spiritual or identity. A lot of coaches, even very senior master coaches, are very hesitant to, this is prickly stuff. This is personal stuff. Am I allowed to ask that? Yes, is the answer to that. And do it with respect. And if they not to share any or all of those things, then that's okay. That's their prerogative. But as a professional coach, them at the depths of their being and their identity in terms of, again, the soup that they've been swimming in for a lifetime. I have an obligation as a professional coach to ask those questions. I do. Now, there's nothing written in stone. You're not going to look up and say, the gods of coaching say you must. No. My question is, why wouldn't you? If you want to get to know this person and honor who they are and respect their ways, their habits, their culture, and I am certainly an expert on all the different cultures of the world, but I want to let them know that, if there's anything that I do or say inadvertently or unknowingly or stupidly, then please let me know, because that is not the intention that it comes from. My intention is to honor you and your way of being, both internal and external. All right, let's move on. And I see one of the comments here. Yes, I did ask with one of my recent clients about their sexual orientation or their sexual identity. Good for you, done. It's part of who they are. It's, have you noticed some things in the world shifting lately? Thank God for, and it's about time, in my opinion, of honoring the individual for who they are. And they have every right to be their authentic self. And I am just a huge promoter of that. And I think coaching is a modality of safety that can occur in. Yeah, and it helped me and it helped the client to have a more trusted coach. Yeah. So it communicates so much, doesn't it? I care about you, and your all of you, not just your personal or not just your public, the face that you have to wear or hide behind to feel safe, to not be persecuted. So have the guts, have the professionalism, have the strength to open those doors for that individual, that precious human being. Yeah. I'm gonna make myself cry. Moving on. Their personal ecosystem, um, their family, their culture. Um, are they living in the same house? One of the questions I've asked for, I think it's in the very first foundation session outline that I created for myself before training, before coaches training even existed, frankly, was who are the people that are closest to you, around you, that their names may come up or the relationships may in our coaching sessions over the next 6 months. And so, are they people that you interact with on a daily basis? Do they live? There's lots of cultures that have, 2 and 3 generations living in the same house. That's, I think, vital information to know the system that this client is going back into at the end of our coaching session to prepare lunch or to get out of the house and go to work. What around them that's going to have an impact or potentially have an impact. So the culture of this individual, are they living in the same house? Is it daily, weekly with Uncle Fred? Uncle Fred lives with us, or Uncle Fred lives next door, and he requires extra care, so we prepare his meals. I mean, kinds of things. You don't have to go through the whole family tree, otherwise you'll be there for 12 hours instead of the 2 to 4 hours that I recommend. Their work environment. Again, what's the culture of their work environment? Have you asked that question? If you're a current coach, have you asked that kind of a question of your client? What kind of environment is your work environment? Torturous? Is it compassionate? Is it an open thing that you can ask your superiors and peers about what's going on? Or is it clandestine and secretive and buddy system, whatever? Boss, peers, subordinates, relationships, etc. Communities, country, affinity groups, all of those things that come under the personal ecosystem. Yeah. All right. Let me just do one adjustment for myself. All right. Yeah. Let me get the good to go. All right. The next element of the foundation session is what is coaching? So this, about this over the last 9 weeks, but review the coaching contract. That's now been newly put in place, maybe within the last week or two, with this particular client. Offer an opportunity for any questions about that. They've signed it by this stage, but is there any further clarification that they'd like to go into deeper? The code of ethics, again, that was a 2 or 3 page addendum to the agreement. You haven't specifically talked about all 28 of those words that are inside of that document. There may be one of those that the client picked up on and goes, okay, so what's this one about? Can you explain this one, or how this you or I or the relationship? Okay, so again, just an opportunity. 95% of cases, the client has reviewed it, they're good with it, and there's no questions. Okay, good. Check the box. This part of it's done. Also set up the coaching session schedule. We're inside the foundation session, which is that block of time. Like I said, I prefer a block of time from 2 to 4 hours to do this work. I know clients, coaches that spend a half a day on this. I know coaches that spend a whole day on this. And that's your prerogative. That's your prerogative. There's no guideline from any authority that says you must do a foundation session. It must be X number of minutes or hours. That, from my own experience, if you plan a coaching foundation session, that's probably 2.5, 3 hours is a really good time for. It's not so onerous that the client says, "Oh my God, I don't have that. I can't slice that amount of time out." But enough to say, do schedule this. It's for your value, your benefit, and this will allow me to support you in a deeper, better way. Okay. Charles is asking, have you ever provided an advanced questionnaire of that would ask a client to share this type of information if they want to, right? Or is it more effective to appropriately discuss directly with them? I do both. Send several forms out to the client ahead of time to have them complete and send back to me before the foundation session. That includes things like the things talked about, their ecosystem, the people around them, people that are close to them, married, status of that marriage, are they divorced, children in their life, ages of children, lots of information that will facilitate dive into a conversation with them when we get together in person, well, or virtually. And a lot of my clients actually don't want to do it in person. They want to do it virtually through a setup like Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or any of the other electronics that are available today. But I do ask them a lot of information, and when I send those forms out to them, I say these will be held as confidential. I'll seize these. Good question, Charles. Thank you for that. All right. Number 6. What are the client's goals? Again, that's one of the forms that I would send out ahead of time. I'm like, what do you want to get out of coaching? So regardless of the engagement period of time, by the end of it, what would you like to have achieved in their job, their career, their profession, personal life, and also what the relevance or significance of being able to accomplish that in our time together. I want them to be vested. I want on the responsibility. And if I know the relevance, significance, importance to those things, stuck or they get hesitant sometime during the 6 months that we're going to have together, then I can remind them of the, not to beat them over the head with it, but I'm pretty sure that you shared with me that to be able to overcome this particular fear of on in your professional life was really the key to providing your family with what you had promised them. As an example, if that's what they shared with me, I don't make stuff up, but if that's what they shared with me, then I can bring that back as a motivator or an internal inspiration them of you know, putting the extra effort in to overcome that fear, or overcome that barrier, or overcome that self-imposed limitation. Yeah. And what are their goals even beyond the coaching engagement? I don't spend a lot of time on this, but what's the 5 years out, 10 years out? Yeah, I want to, 5 years from now, I want to maybe be an entrepreneur and start my own business. Out, the kids will be out of school, and I want to have a more intimate relationship with my spouse. I want to reestablish the path we had when we first got married, whatever that might be. So it gives them a continuum of, even beyond the time that we're going to be together, there's going to be an opportunity to continue to grow, because that's what we do as humans. We continue to learn, we continue to grow. All right, number 6. Let's go to number 7. What are the client's beliefs? Now, this is a huge area. You could spend 3 hours just on this one alone. You could probably spend, 8 hours or 10 hours on this one. I don't necessarily ask every single one of these things, but to the degree that I think that it might be pertinent for this particular client and their goals, what's their current operating system that's going on inside of them? And a lot of that's driven by their current belief system. So what are their beliefs about living life, about a life well lived? I can read that. Okay. About a life well lived. What do you believe about that? What are your beliefs about being a leader, being an entrepreneur, being a singer, being an author, whatever their role happens to be? And I'll ask them about their beliefs about that. About being a parent, if they're a parent. About diversity, inclusion, justice. There's a lot. We're currently in a very heightened sense of awareness around these things. Thank goodness. So what are some of your beliefs? About their age, about their stage of life. What do you believe at 27 years old about the age that you are at? So this one in particular is an interesting one, because an individual of age can say, oh, I'm limited because I'm not as experienced as the older guy. And the older guy is going to say, the new generation coming up is, I think, about running out because I am dated. I am not up in terms of the current technology. I am, again, I'm going to classify a lot of, not all of them are, but I'm going to classify a lot of these as self-limiting beliefs. Self-limiting beliefs. And are they going to get in the way, again, their goal achievement? May we have permission to use and refine this with credit? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Charles. Charles asking if you can use this of, checking the beliefs or any of this material, with elsewhere. And the answer is yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah. So, what do you believe about God? What do you believe about a sense of a divinity? I actually have a form that I've been on for 25 years. I actually did a session on this in International Coaching Federation's international conference in London back, I don't know, probably 8, maybe even 10 years ago now. And it was on how do you have a conversation with your client about God, about a divine presence, about a creator, about spirit. And my guess is that there were probably over 100 people in the room, and I think it had a capacity for 90. So it was literally SRO, standing room only, which was a nice surprise for me. But my guess is that probably them were MCC coaches, master certified coaches, very, very brilliant professionals, highly skilled coaches. Said in the confines of that room is that I've always been afraid of venturing into this conversation, and I was uncomfortable with that. And so be brave. Ask them if they have a sense of a divinity or a God or a belief system in that. And what is it? What do they name it? How do they honor that? If they do. And if they don't, then I need to know that too, so that I'm not using spiritual terminology with the client appropriate, because I want to honor them and their beliefs and their way of naming. So what are your beliefs around that part of life? About dot. I mean, so there's all kinds of different beliefs that a coach client can get engaged in. So do we have time for this? Maybe. Let me take a few seconds here and see, for those of you that are on the Zoom platform with me now live and without delay, so this is real time. What's one area that you could ask a client about relative to their beliefs? Just one area of life or one topic. What would it be? And as people are typing in different things, I've got Singloi saying, so can you give an example of how are these questions asked without sounding judgmental? Okay. So I'm curious as to what your belief is around about being a parent. And you can share that with me or not. That's up to you. That's your choice. But I'm curious about the beliefs that may in your goal of being a great parent, if that's their goal. So the way I don't couch it, I'm actually quite direct with these, is so that I can support you to achieve your goals. And if I start hearing that there may be some things that are holding you back, it could be because of your belief system. Believe death is final. Yeah, super. I'm not seeing anything else coming through right now. We'll continue to go on. Here's another one. What does it mean to you? Yeah, great. Love that. What's your belief around being successful? My belief is that that's not okay. Whew. Limiting belief. You can't be too big for your britches. You know, you can't be, don't get a big head. Some of my early programming. Okay. What's your belief of being a good teacher? This I ask while talking to a group of teachers. Yeah. What's your belief about that? What's your belief about what makes a teacher a good teacher? Beliefs, by the way, again, this is my belief about beliefs. So you can ask what your belief is about beliefs, about changing their beliefs. So if you're afraid about specific beliefs and, about being able to believe, I believe beliefs are enculturated into me from the people that are around me, from the influences of my gender, age, ethnicity, family, culture, values, etc. Okay, and they're not all bad. It's not to say that I need to change them all or let go of them, but a belief is reinforced with experience of, okay, yep, happen again. So corporate, here's an early one that I had. Corporate is a dog eat dog world. That's a belief. Is that actually the truth? It is for a lot of people because they keep seeing examples of that in news and what they read in conversations and their own experience with their employers. So yes, that's a belief. And they're going to say, is that true? And they're going to say yes, because they have lots of piled up evidence that that's the way the world it just is. And I can also talk to somebody else and say, yeah, corporations and companies are a place for creativity that uplifts humankind. And they can gather evidence about that. They give examples of entrepreneurs, founders, or technologies, or compassionate people, or that organization has had on a community. So my answer to can it be changed? The answer is yes. It's a lot of consciousness to do so. And it may also take some unlearning or deprogramming to open the shutters of, no, this is the way the world operates. This is the way life is. Everyone that is a blank is a blank. If I open up the possibility, which again is the part of the responsibility of a professional coach, is to raise the level of awareness for that client. What if it wasn't? What if this belief is, it may not be as much as it doesn't serve me any longer. It would serve me much better to believe that, fill in the blank. Okay. What makes you believe that a good teacher has to be strict when one of the teachers said that he had to be strict in class? So again, we're digging into that person's belief. Yeah, it's a great example. Thank you for that one. All right. How are we doing on time? We got about 10 minutes, maybe just a little bit shy of that. Okay, I think we're doing fantastic well here. How does a client process? How does a client learn? I learned this a long time ago, way before I got into coaching. And they talked about learners through a VAC mentality. VAC, V for visual. I'm a visual learner. I process, I see things, I visualize things in my mind, and I learn that way. So for me, give me a graphic, give me a PowerPoint, give me something to look so that I can connect it. Okay, I'm a visual learner. Auditory, A is a auditory learner, is I need to hear it. I need to hear the word. I process it through my ears, literally. K, kinesthetic or tactile, is learning style that requires that the student or the client can manipulate it or touch it or feel it. And so, and then the last piece of this, of course, the multisensory learner is one that can use all three of them. They have input. They take the visual, they take the auditory, they take the value of this. And the way that I present this in a coaching foundation session is, what's your preference? What do you know is your terms of how you learn best? And I haven't ranked this 1, 2, 3. For me, it would be number one, be V, visual. Number two would be probably kinesthetic, and three would be auditory. A and B maybe equal. Maybe that's 2 and 2. You know, but one is clearly much more powerful. What this gives me as a coach, a lot of questions then from one of these perspectives. So let me give you an example. The client is talking about when they get promoted, and their promotion they're shooting for in 6 months' time or a year's time. Let's say a year. Okay, so then the questions that I could use to follow up on that is, so what do you see when you see yourself in that new position? See, I'm asking them to actually visualize. If they're strong audit, I'm going to ask the question very differently. I'm going to ask that question and it'll sound like, so when you get that promotion, what are you hearing people say or share with you? Oh, congratulations, George. This is fantastic. I'm hearing them say, you really deserve this. I'm so happy for you. I'm here. Wow, this is a huge step for you in your career. I'm hearing my bosses and elders in the organization say, I've been keeping my eye on you and I'm really happy in this new position. That's auditory, right? And I trigger that by not asking that person, what do you see? Because it may not register. It's not as powerful going through their brain. But when I ask them according to what they mostly tell me up front in the foundation session, we're doing this in the first place is getting to know the client better. I'm going to be cognizant that, and I still may ask them a visual question. That's okay. Head's going to explode. But ask them an auditory question when that's their number one modality of learning and processing or thinking about things. What do you hear your gut saying right now? What are you hearing inside your head? Having them explore through an auditory modality. Kinesthetic, tactile is more rare in my experience of clients. But I had one client that was number one kinesthetic maximus. I mean, he was big time tactile person. And so he was designing a follow-up to a thing that we were talking about in his session. And him about, is there kind of a support that you could put in place that would remind you of this particular commitment that you make to yourself? And he came up with, I touch a button that turns on my computer every morning, and he said a half of a Velcro strip that had the little prickly things on it, adhesive on the other side. He says, I'm going to cut out a little one and stick it on my key, my start key. So in the morning, when he pushed that button, it was tactile. He could feel it. And it was then triggered, I want to be aware of, again, whatever it was that he wanted to be aware of. I don't even remember. But the point is that people will, if you ask this question, it's a simple question, they'll know this, even though that they may have never been asked it before. And certainly probably not by a professional coach. So that's the VAK, V-A-K, V-A-K. All right, let's go to the next. Maybe the last one. Oh, okay. So what forms allow all of these topics to be covered? And one of them we talked about, Charles, I think, asked about forms or questionnaire. Yes, please have one. Put one together for yourself. You can use some of these things in the PowerPoint slides that I've shared with you today. Your own, make it for yourself. Make it for the kind of coaching that you do, the kind of clients that you're going to be getting or attracting. But number one, pre-foundation forms. I send these out 2 weeks ahead of time, sometimes 3 or 4 weeks if we have the time to do that, because it may take the client 2-3 hours to ponder, think about, articulate, write down, want to get out of this coaching engagement. And then I have them return to me at least 1 week prior to the session, so that I can read through them. I can understand any questions that might come up, any conflicts that might come up, etc. And the forms that there's probably, let me think, at least 6 or 7 pages worth. So it's not a half a page questionnaire that's just kind of just do this because I'm supposed to do it. No, I'm very curious about what's going on with this client before they arrive at the foundation session. There is also some journaling that you may want to have them do ahead of time. That's going to be part of a process that you take them through during those 2 to 3 hours that you spend with them. I spend 45 minutes kind of going through who are you, some of the forms, name, rank, and serial number kind of stuff. When's your birthday? Are you married? Do you have? How many are still at home? Where are the other ones? Do you talk to them regularly? If so, how often? If not, how often? That's all kind of pretty standard. And then I spend at least an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours going through some discovery processes that we talked about in number 1 or 2. That place of understanding who are you at your core values, core purpose, core gifts that were endowed to you. That is a proprietary process that we train professional coaches to do. I don't give that out just because you really do need to be properly trained on how to do that. But you could use the 10-minute version that I did share with you earlier, and it's in the chat box here, coreselfie.com, a 10-minute version of that. Incredibly powerful. It just is. So I encourage you, if you don't have another one that you're already using, highly encourage you to use that. And that's no charge. Share it with everybody you know. Share it with all your other coaches in your community, your country. Translate it into another language for yourself. In fact, if you do translate that one into a different, send a copy to me, please, because I'd like to have that on the Core Selfie website as well. Okay, got off on a tangent there. Discussions during together, and I do schedule 2 to 4 hours foundation session. Don't try to do this in 30 minutes. Don't try to do this as, okay, we're going to be meeting for coaching sessions. We'll do the foundation session in our first hour together. Don't do that. Do this as a separate standalone before you start getting into your weekly or or ongoing coaching sessions. Now, there's a lot of coaches that have gone to sponsors and they say, well, we're not going to pay for that. We just want you to coach. Thank you very much. Get to it. And so some coaches have had to acquiesce to that. And I have a lot of other coaches that are zealous about doing a foundation session. So if I can't do a foundation session, then I can't take on the coaching assignment. It's that important to me, and it's that important to your client. And some have gone so far in the early stages of their career, their coaching career, to say, I'll tell you what, this is so important. I'm going to gift this 2 hours, 3 hours foundation session to you. Your company is not paying for it, but it's that important. And so that's an alternative. That's your choice to do that. But that's how important this is for the client to go deeper, faster, and get more stuff done, period. Yeah. Please don't do coaching engagement without it. Suggest the client not schedule for the 2 hours after the foundation session. Foundation session, the way that I do it and the way that my students have done it, is so powerful that it costs client to go, wow, I need time to assimilate this. And so I've had so many clients and so many of my students, clients come back to them to say, you know, I resisted the 2 or 3 hours that we're going to spend together, and even more the 2 hours afterwards. You suggested that for my calendar to not go back to a family event or a business, another business meeting. And I am so thankful that you had me do that. It allowed me to really reflect, really be with my inner being, to reflect on all the things that happened for me, really absorb the profoundness of what I rediscovered about myself. This is a life changer. And that's words now for 25 years from my students and my students' clients that have come back to them. So if you do a deep dive into this person's life, and you're doing a deep dive in terms of their highest aspirations and who they need to be as a human being to achieve, encourage them to have that time. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Next week. All right. We're there already. Holy cow. Episode number 11 is going to, now that we've set up the foundation session, and now we get into the